right, so we feature this documentary where children, sit down with us and very honestly, as children do, explain what they went through, their personal experience in a 6th grade classroom when they got a guest presentation from a 7th grade teacher named Karina Champion. But of course, ideologues don't want to be confronted with something that challenges their worldview or suggests that their worldview is in something that's inappropriate to be shared with kids. So now we have ideologues that are part of our public school system that are attacking the character of these 2 kids, the honesty of these 2 kids, and the character of their family. This segment is brought to you by Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. I'm down 37 pounds on the program, and I lost most of that weight in just 2 months. There's no prepackaged meals, no counting calories, no drugs or injections. Schedule your free 15-minute consultation today at eastsideweightlossclinic.com. One thing you have to know about what happens in the Olympia School District and all this political activism and ideology, a lot of it's driven by a left-wing faction in Olympia that's the same left-wing faction that protests the police, for instance, that's out there protesting Israel and the pro-Palestine. So similar in Seattle, you've got this left-wing faction and they're vicious, let me tell you, because I've personally experienced it. They're vicious. They're vicious in Seattle, they're vicious in Olympia, and it's how they keep people quiet, like you and I. It's how they keep parents quiet and keep parents from speaking out about some of the things happening in schools because they think, I don't want to be subjected to the hate and vitriol and the ganging up that often occurs from this far left group. When we went to Lacey, you remember we were having an initiative signing for parental rights at a coffee shop in Lacey. And it was just about, hey, parents should have control over what's happening with their kids and education. Nothing controversial. This left-wing faction in Olympia came to Lacey, stirred up anger online, and they protested us, calling us transphobes while we were peacefully inside exercising our constitutional right to collect signatures for an initiative. So it's the same people who do these things, and they rely on people being too scared or too worried about the ramifications of speaking out. That's how they shut you up and keep you quiet. And that's what they're trying to do here to these kids that were featured in Operation Indoctrination and to their families. For the time being, I know that the families aren't backing down. We're sure as hell not backing down. We have a way bigger platform, and we have the benefit of having truth and reason and sanity on our side. But that doesn't mean they're not going to try. So there's a Facebook post from someone, their name on Facebook, MCD Sean, says his, what do you call it? You can put your emoji for how you're feeling, right? MCD Sean is feeling pissed off, and he tags the who's who of far left activists in Olympia. He said, Crystal and I, Crystal being his wife, are deeply disappointed by the unfair attack on one of the best teachers at the Olympia Regional Learning Academy, where my kids have attended since they were in kindergarten. This teacher, who is a strong advocate for marginalized students, has been recorded without her consent, and her lessons have been taken out of context on a local talk show host's platform. Interesting. I've been taking things out of context. Karina Champion recorded without her consent. As a parent and educator in the community, I find this behavior and dishonest reporting unacceptable. The testimony from the 2 sets of siblings is misleading and should be retracted. I have been a parent at this school for nearly 15 years and can personally attest to this teacher's exceptional character and dedication. Interesting. The same teacher who brought a dildo to class 5 years ago, that teacher's exceptional character and dedication. There appears to be a vendetta against her, driven by these students and their MAGA parents due to her advocacy for students of color and the LGBTQIA+ community. Recording a teacher without consent is not only unethical, but also a violation of her rights. Interesting. Never mind what she said being unethical. This kind of irresponsible reporting jeopardizes the safety and well-being of our school and students, especially in a time when school violence is a real concern. But let's ignore the fact that OSD pushed school resource officers out of school because cops are racist, and now you're worried about violence. I digress. The claims against this teacher are unfounded, and the entire situation is both bullying and shameful. Never mind that Karina Champion is accused of calling a 7th grader a transphobe, the other one a homophobe, and encouraging the bullying of non-LGBTQ plus students. Again, I digress. We need to stand together as a community in support of our teachers and the values they represent. Okay, so just, right, some random dude on social media hates our documentary. No big deal, right? Except he's not a random dude. He's a vice principal at Comanche Middle School in Lacey, Sean McDonald. So he's not a random dude on Facebook. He's an educator. He is a vice principal for a middle school, the same age of kids that we're talking about and that he's attacking in his post, the character of, the credibility of, suggesting they're only doing this because of their MAGA parents and that what they're saying isn't true and it can't be trusted. Yeah, he's a vice principal at a middle school. God, I would hate to be a parent that sends their kids to Comanche Middle School to understand that he'll never believe a kid if a kid speaks up about something happening in their classroom. He'll never take concerns seriously about left-wing ideologies being pushed in classrooms because he agrees with it. And if you do say something about it, parents at the Comanche Middle School, well, vice principal, assistant principal Sean McDonald is going to attack you about it on social media. He's going to attack your kids about it on social media. That doesn't seem like someone who's fit to be a vice principal of a middle school, let alone anywhere else. Now, usually I would say the story wasn't about him, so I would never just randomly pluck a vice principal, go to a public school and say, hey, what is this vice principal or principal's political leanings? Because you're allowed to have your political leanings. You're allowed to, in my opinion, make posts about your political beliefs on social media as long as those posts aren't attacking parents or kids or aren't, melding your political beliefs with the job. But since he has inserted himself into this situation and decided that he wants to be a part of the story now, let's talk about his political beliefs, shall we? So he posts a lot about politics on social media. Again, his wife, Crystal, who now we've found out runs political campaigns. She co-managed the campaign of a very far-left progressive candidate, but there's tons of posts on there, including one where his daughters are pictured with multiple Democratic elected officials, including the superintendent of public instruction, Kruse, who supports a lot of these policies. So he's got his family's very politically active. His wife's politically active. They go out, they volunteer for Democratic candidates. Again, would not be a big deal, except he's calling into question the motivation of these students, the motivation of these parents because of their perceived MAGA politics, in his opinion. Okay, well, let's talk about your politics, including the fact that he posts videos on his page like this one that compares Christians who support Donald Trump to the KKK.
You want to call yourself a Christian? I don't give a if you go to church 23 out of 24 hours. You're a mean motherfucker. For the rest of your life, you have to know that you voted the same way as the KKK.
So that's the kind of stuff that he's posting on his social media accounts. He clearly has a far left ideology. He posts about Trump all the time, Republicans, conservatives, all of that. Hates him, right? So now you want to, Vice Principal Sean McDonald, you want to question what these kids are sitting down on camera saying because you question the politics of their parents, but you don't want to be held accountable for your opinion on what they're saying being influenced by your own political agenda. Here's the kicker, though, the thing that really gets me about Vice Principal Sean McDonald of the Comanche Middle School in Lacey. His key argument against what we present in Operation Indoctrination seems to be the way in which 7th grader Peyton got this recording of Karina Champion that is at the center of the story. Remember, this all started with Peyton deciding that something Karina Champion was saying was so unhinged, she simply had to record it. And the recording is probably about 5 minutes long. We've aired it in the show before in its entirety, but here's Vice Principal Sean McDonald's argument. This testimony is misleading and should be retracted immediately. As a parent at this school for 20 years, I can attest that this teacher is exceptional and a wonderful person. There's a known vendetta against her among some students. Recording a teacher without consent is illegal and could lead to legal consequences for Brandi, Kruse, and the students involved. Yeah, clearly you know nothing about the law, but that's a small part of this. Additionally, such reporting jeopardizes schools unnecessarily. This teacher is talented and dedicated, and the claims made are both unfounded and shameful. And he continues to reiterate that the way that this recording was taken was illegal. How can you say the claims are unfounded or misleading when the entire basis of the interviews that these twin seventh graders gave were about a recording? What is unfounded? Is it the part of the recording where Karina Champion is very clearly ranting about Ronald Reagan being a homophobe?
Because this disease was primarily affecting gay people and he was homophobic, he chose to stop any funding to go towards trying to solve this disease. And people were dying in huge, huge numbers because of his homophobia.
Please tell us what we're taking out of context about that. The presentation, remember, she was supposed to be giving was about a bug quilt. She talks about it at the very end of the recording. How the sixth graders would go on their seventh grade year and they'd get to work on a bug quilt, where the quilt would be, different squares of insects and plants, because she's a science teacher, right? But instead she came in and she put up on the screen a presentation called Quilts for Awareness and Activism, and started ranting about Ronald Reagan being a homophobe. And Reese, again, a sixth grader at the time, thought it was so weird that she reached into her backpack, pulled out her phone in a public school with a public school teacher paid for with our tax money, and recorded her saying it. And so when he says this is taken out of context, what's taken out of context? We've released the whole recording. Is the part where she rants about Trayvon Martin and spreads a bunch of falsehoods about the case and about white supremacy taken out of context?
Does anybody know who Trayvon Martin is? No? Okay. So Trayvon Martin was a kid who was a little bit older than you. He was 13 years old. He went to go walk to the corner store and got some Skittles and an iced tea for his brother. And on his way home, a white supremacist was following him in his truck and yelling at him, and then got out and killed him. And the person who killed him did not go to jail, was not charged because of a racist law that's currently in Florida that allows people to kill someone else if they are scared. And how this law is generally applied is by white supremacists who say they were scared just by the presence of a black or brown person.
What was out of context about that? There's very few things that could be more in context than a complete recording of what Karina Champion said. Again, I'm not going to replay the entire clip. It's fairly long. We've played it on the show several times and featured most of it in the documentary. So I don't think you're really mad about the documentary. I think you're mad she got caught, Vice Principal Sean McDonald. I think you're mad that your ideology and her ideology are under attack. And I think you're mad that people are starting to speak up and say, no, it's okay. It's not okay, Vice Principal Sean McDonald of Comanche Middle School in Lacey. No, it's not okay for you to push your political beliefs on our children. No, it's not okay when a teacher who you say is one of the best out there and cares a lot, when she comes into a classroom to give a guest presentation that's supposed to be about science and bugs and plants, no, it's not okay for her to launch into a tirade about Ronald Reagan being a homophobe and about white supremacy and Florida laws that protect white people who feel unsafe around black people. So what you're mad about is that we're using our platform to call out the utter insanity of that. And his attacks didn't just stop at questioning the credibility of the kids, who again are just sharing their thoughts on a recording that exists of what a teacher actually said. He also attacked Jake McCullough, the kids' parents, who you just heard from. She had posted in some of the comments on our page that they had started something called the Olympia School District Accountability Fund, because they're worried about, they want to hold the school district accountable. They don't want to have to take their kids entirely out of the public school district. And so they hired an attorney, and it's going to cost them some money. So they started the Olympia School District Accountability Fund, which we'll share with you momentarily. Well, Vice Principal Sean McDonald didn't like that. He said, now you're profiting off this grift? What grift is that? Again, what grift is that? The fact that the kids recorded something in their class and shared it publicly because it was so horrible? And he says, after you buy Trump shoes and a Bible, waste your money here. Who's the ideological one now? Vice Principal Sean McDonald of the Comanche Middle School in Lacey. Now, clearly he has an agenda. He wants to question the agenda of seventh graders. Interesting. But we're not can't question his agenda, which is very obvious, comparing Christians who support Trump to the KKK, ranting against all sorts of conservative issues, being out there pushing for progressive borderline socialist candidates like his wife does and helping their campaigns, none of which would have been relevant had he not personally attacked 2 7th graders and their parents. And it gets worse. I do think that actually everything he said, like, look, unhinged. I don't think he should be a vice principal around middle school students when he's online questioning the sincerity and truthfulness of middle school students for literally just sharing a recording of something their teacher did. Seems odd. We've reached out to the school district he works for and to him personally for comment. Here's the one that bothers me more. A post from a woman named Christine Clements, where she said this. Actually, the parents are very worried for the twins and the unhinged behavior of their mother. The community has tried to help heal, and it seems the family has no intention to. And then she gets into this concern that you'd have to do a background check to go to school with your kid. Everyone has always had to do a background check to volunteer or be in the building for any length of time. What does Jake have to hide that she refuses to do a background check? And we hadn't actually aired that interview where she talks about the background check when Christine posted this comment, which was interesting because we're like, well, does she have some inside information? What does she mean? The parents are very worried for the twins. Seemed like she had some inside information. Well, she does, because you know what she is? She's the PTA president at Orla, the school where these kids go to. Christine Clements, PTA co-president at Orla. Now, I want you to really think about what she says there. And how, first of all, it's designed, we talked about it earlier, right? It's designed to shut the family up. She's suggesting without any proof that their mom might have a criminal background. She's suggesting without any proof that the community is worried about the safety of the twins and the unhinged behavior of the mother. You just watched a 20-minute interview with that mom. Did she seem unhinged to you? You watched a documentary that featured her 7th grade kids. Watch another clip from it. Do these seem like twins who might be in an unsafe environment at home?
I was like, in my head, I was like, okay, this is getting uncomfortable for me. I don't know what to do. And then immediately I thought, phone. Where's my phone? I need to record this to like just have proof or something, or just evidence of what happened and what was weird to me. And I can show my parents and maybe feel a little bit more comfortable, and they can explain what she was saying or what was happening.
Those don't seem like kids who are in an unsafe home environment. Those seem like kids that are very well adjusted and whose parents have told them, hey, if you ever feel unsafe or uncomfortable, let us know. That's exactly what she did. She took out her phone and she recorded because she knew what was happening was wrong, even at the time as a 6th grader. And she wanted to be able to ask her parents, hey, what happened here? Is this unusual? I mean, what should I think about this? That sounds like a very well-adjusted kid in a very healthy home environment. Yet you have this PTA president, again, I have to read this because I want you to think about how crazy this is. A PTA president, a fellow parent, attacking a parent and suggesting publicly on social media that that parent might be a danger to her kids, saying us parents are very worried for the twins and the unhinged behavior of their mother. The community has tried to help and heal, and it seems the family has no intention to. How are you trying to help heal while you're suggesting on social media that their mom is unhinged and might pose a danger to them? By the way, there are laws for that. If you really feel like the kids, you're so worried about the kids that they might be in an unhealthy, unsafe home environment, as a PTA president, call the cops. Call the cops then, right? And you're a PTA president in an environment and a system where there are policies meant to protect kids by keeping secrets from their parents. Like if a kid comes to school and identifies as a different gender, you're not going to tell the parents because all the parents might be a risk. Parents might do something if they find out the kid thinks they're a boy. So you're all about secrecy. Unless you're trying to put a parent on blast with unfounded claims to scare them into silence, then it's not about secrecy. It's about public shaming and public lies. The documentary we did was based on documentation, documented audio, documented reports of misconduct that was bolstered by the stories of kids that were all very consistent with the behavior that has been documented of this particular teacher. We had not one student, not two students, not three students, 4 students. And we had a teacher with a documented history of pushing political and social views on kids going back to at least 2019 when she brought a sex toy to class. But yeah, we shouldn't believe her. She's the victim here. The kids have an agenda. Their parents have an agenda. The parents are the ones. Can you pull up, Nicole, that picture of the vice principal? The first one. Yeah, look at that picture. Yeah, it's the parents that have an agenda. As you're decked out with your trans pride flags at the Capitol talking about all the political events that you go to and how Christians who vote for Trump are similar to the KKK, etc. Yeah, it's the parents that have an agenda. Because what every parent in the world wants is to put themselves out there and put their kids out there for no reason in the world to just spread lies and create problems for them. What motivation in the world would Jake have to do that? Not to mention the long documented track record that Alicia Perkins has shared about all these things in the Olympia School District. What reason in the world would you have for a parent to agree to have your kids sit down and put themselves under immense scrutiny for no reason, just to make stuff up? We know they're not making it up because there's a recording that shows they're not making it up. So again, to Vice Principal Sean McDonald of Comatchen Middle School in Lacey, and to Christine Clemens, the co-president of the Orla PTA, shame on you. What I would have liked to see are educators involved in and around the Olympia School District watch that documentary and have an ounce of self-awareness to say, hey, what these kids are saying is pretty bad. We work with kids. Maybe we should start from a position of believing them. When they say that there's things happening in their class that are making them uncomfortable. When their teacher, Karina Champion, in a class with boys and girls tells the boys, if you get a boner, just rub it out. Where Karina Champion, multiple students say she would just freely talk about her period and her flow outside the context of a sex ed environment. Where she called 7th graders transphobes and homophobes in front of other kids and encouraged bullying of non-LGBTQ students. Where there's smoke, there's fire. So instead of defending her as an excellent educator and dismissing these kids and their parents must be MAGA extremists, I would have loved for you to have an ounce of integrity and self-reflection and said, you know what? Test scores are not great. Enrollment is down. Maybe we need to start taking this seriously and maybe we need to check our politics at the door. But of course they can't do that because they have no self-awareness and they believe that what they are doing is righteous and that pushing their political personal beliefs on these kids is the right thing to do in order to prepare these kids for adulthood. So shame on you. And for anyone else who would wish to scare, bully this family and any other family that speaks up, because we have another family ready to go for Monday's show, just know that we're not backing down. I don't think they're going to back down. And we're not going to fall for the same tricks that you have used over and over to shut reasonable people up. We're not shutting up anymore. Now, I do want to note, because of the attacks that these kids are under, their families are under, because of these families repeatedly coming forward to speak out and urge the school to follow the law in 2081, the law that 500,000 Washingtonians signed as an initiative, that they have had to hire a lawyer. So there is a GoFundMe page. If you go on GoFundMe, it's called Olympia School District Accountability Fund. So if you would like to help this family and help other Olympia School District families who are ready to stand up and fight back, this is a really good way to do that.